Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.
And welcome everyone to this week's edition of Sports Shorts Television presented by LeBears Casino in Baton Rouge. Download the LeBears Baton Rouge app on your phone and check out all the great concerts and goings-on that they have coming up. For the first half hour of the show, joining me is former LSU longtime assistant coach, six-time College World Series coach as an assistant, Dan Canterbury. How are you, Dan?
Doing great today, Ronnie. How about you?
Thanks for being here and joining us. With baseball talk, fitting for the Major League Baseball, All-Star game where two former Tigers, DJ LeMahieu and Alex Bregman, will be starting and participating. First time in program history that's ever happened, two starters in the same year. But one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on the show is the kind of the ongoing story of Tony Robichaux, the passing of the college baseball coaching great that happened last Wednesday. And as we tape here on Monday, it's actually right before his funeral. And you had obviously dealt with Tony for a very long time. As an assistant at LSU, as a head coach at Southeastern, as an assistant at Southern, always interacted, always played. What's your relationship with Tony? How far back does it go? When did you first kind of get to know him?
Well, when I got here in 1991, when you were a freshman, we were both young then, but that was when Bolanger was still the coach, I believe, in '91. Right. Yeah, Bolanger. And Coach Bo. And then Tony came on board. He came on board from McNeese. We had played him when he was coaching at McNeese. And, of course, he handed off the reins to his assistant, Jim Riggleman, who ended up handing off the reins to Mike Bianco. Sure. And Tony helped him get that job. When Tony did get the job at ULL, he offered Mike Bianco a job as assistant and ended up going to Wayne Semino. So we had talked to Tony during those times, but the biggest thing I remember when Tony took over is the attitude towards LSU changed with Tony, meaning, he went to ULL, and we used to go over there, and it'd be pretty nasty at times. And but Tony just was friendly, said, we're just trying to get the program right. We're trying to do some things. And the thing he did is what Skip did here at LSU is he educated the fans. He started a cooking area, tried to make it a family atmosphere, did it on his own, built it up through the community, and just really was a pleasant guy to deal with. And I really appreciate the fact that he understood that. He's just a baseball coach trying to get by.
He was at McNeese. You could appreciate this, being a guy who got into coaching at a young age. Due to some crazy circumstances, at the age of 24, he was given the reins as the head baseball coach at McNeese, and through all of this, at one of the memorial services I attended last night, actually for Tony Robichaux, I ran into Glenn Cicchini, and Glenn Cicchini's a Hall of Fame baseball coach at Barb High, won 10 state championships and all that, former USA coach. And Glenn and Tony were actually roommates in 1984, I believe, at UL, where they were players. And Glenn tells a story that when Tony Robichaux ended up getting the job at McNeese, and they were both young guys right out of college, sure. He offered him a job as an assistant. And I think the pay was, I think he said either $500 or $7,500.
Sure.
Was the pay. And he had a wife or a girlfriend at the time, was about to get married, and he couldn't take the job, didn't pay enough, so he ended up taking the job at Barb as a baseball coach where he was making like $18,000.
Yeah, like three times the amount of money.
So the high school coach was, almost three times the amount of money as a college assistant coach.
People that follow college baseball now could never believe that it was like that, but especially here, in Louisiana, I was in Florida when those types of salaries, and so we used to joke, if you got into college baseball when you started, you took the oath of poverty. You were going to go under the radar, you're going to find a way to make it work. And you had to have a wife that worked, that supported you. But he also hired Bert Broussard as a graduate assistant. So Tony's got some tie-ins with some people around here, but a tremendous job just through the years at ULL. One of the things I respect Tony for, and always respected him for, is he got his players to play hard. That's a hard thing to do. If you're coaching, it's hard to do. He made them tough. He made them men. He made them play above their abilities. And one of the things he decided is that he was going to do it locally. A guy from, I think he was from Crowley, right down the street. And he recruited that area very well, got the best players from those areas. And then he coached them real hard, got them to compete, got them to be teams, and made them men. And I think he felt that was more important than, winning a national championship or trying to advance his career. So I think that was a real big thing for Tony, is that he knew where he was. He wanted to make the best ULL it could be. He raised good kids, and another thing I commend him for is, he coached 2 of his sons, and it worked. Mm-hmm. That's a very hard thing to do, that dynamic, not between you and your son, but with the other people around the program is what makes it difficult.
Yeah, and matter of fact, talking about Justin, the oldest son, who he was actually involved with the staff in Tony's last year as like a GA or a volunteer coach, something like that. He was around the program, and his other son, Austin's an outstanding pitcher that's still playing in the minor leagues. Tony spent 25 years with the Raging Cajuns, 7 at McNeese. Early on in his career with the Raging Cajuns, I think it was year 5, they end up in the College World Series in 2000 when
with
you were
us.
there. And
same hotel.
Before I get to talking about 2000 specifically, because obviously that's the banner season in his career, are you surprised that he stayed in Lafayette for his whole career?
That's one of the things I want to touch on, and that's one of the things that the people should understand. That was a tremendous thing for Tony. He got into it, and of course all coaches, we all want to win a national championship and do a lot of things, but the way college coaching goes, when he gets there in 2000 as the head coach, still relatively young as a head coach.
Late 30s.
yeah, and brought a team that, one of those miracle teams like Coastal Carolina or anybody else that got there, he becomes the hot coach, with the coaching jobs open. For him to say, you know what, I belong here. This is my state. This is my area. UL gave me the opportunity. I don't want to go anywhere, because I am absolutely positive, without him telling me, that he turned down a lot of jobs. And that's really commendable that he did that. The other thing that's commendable is, Babineau, Anthony Babineau's assistant.
25 years.
Been with him
on his staff.
On his staff the whole time. Right. Took whatever job that had to be done. Jeremy Talbot, comes back there and he's the coach. I mean, he inspired loyalty. John Sheff there, he coached against him in a regional, picked him up. Wade Semino was with him. Then he moved off and did his own thing. So, I mean, he inspired loyalty, and I think that's really the hallmark of the program. As he improved it, he stayed in that town and became an icon. And for a lot of people, that's a tough thing to do. But Tony just fell right into that role and just did a great job with everything.
Talking about Tony Robichaux, who passed away at the age of 57 years old last week due to a heart attack, complications, had a couple of surgeries. And, the thing that's been impressive is on social media, right? I mean, it's just a bombardment of testimonies to Tony's life and a lot of Robisms and that sort of thing. And it's obvious, and he made the point, all the time, that for him, coaching had a lot more to do with just winning ball games. And he lived it, proved it, and shared that message wherever he was. In 2000, when LSU won its last national championship under Skip Bertman, and you were there as an assistant coach, what do you remember about that time and before in Omaha, sharing the hotel with the Raging Cajuns and all that, the new kids on the block to the party, but also how they got there?
Yeah, it was a tremendous way they won, their regional and then the super regional, which was very, very difficult to do. If my memory serves me correct, they beat Ole Miss.
No, they beat South Carolina on the road, who was number 1 in the country.
Right, at that point.
And they lost the first game of the 3-game series.
Wow, that's a heck of a thing. I know, but anyway, when they did get to Omaha, which I remember the most, sharing the hotel is, the kids were so excited to be there, a little bit overconfident, so to speak. But Tony had a great way of trying to keep them calm, and he did a good job of trying to keep them. Hey, we're happy to be here. We're lucky to be here. Cherish the moments, but play hard, and we can win this thing. There's no reason we can't win it. And one of the things I remember is we played after they were eliminated. He met with Skip and met with the coaches and went through everything, all the information that he had
on Stanford.
because he played them a few times and was very open to share it. Now, a lot of people felt that ULL-LSU rivalry was a big thing back at that point in time. You know, there's a lot of, I wouldn't say hatred, but a lot of passion in that relationship amongst the fans. But amongst the coaches, it was pretty even-keeled. They wanted to stay in Louisiana to do well in Omaha. And that shows the kind of guy that Tony was. He's willing to share that, with us. And, of course, they exited the College World Series. They left there. We were fortunate enough to win it. And Tony's very gracious the whole time.
Yeah, the Raging Cajuns in their first trip in 2000 won 2 games, which doesn't always happen. Yeah, they went 2-2 in Omaha.
Another thing about that, Ronnie, like when you talk about Omaha, and you've heard it from Skip, and, of course, through the years, in order to win in Omaha, you have to have been there. He always preached that you got to know what smells and sights and sounds. And from going there, and I know from going there, when you first get there, it's a bombardment of activity and gear and people and autographs and picnics. And it's just like a whirlwind. Next thing you know, 2 days are gone. You play 2 games and it's over, for a lot of people. But to get there is the hardest part. Once you get there, it's just a matter of who plays well, who doesn't, who can handle it. The fact is, Tony got there without really a mentor. And, Skip got to Omaha because we went in Miami, and Frazier was a mentor to Skip. And not that Skip doesn't deserve a lot of credit, but he learned how to go to Omaha. A guy like Brian O'Connor, was there with Paul as an assistant. Paul, found his way there. His dad was a junior college coach. When you don't have a mentor like that takes you there, that shows you how much Tony learned on his own, how great a man he was, and how he could inspire those guys to play at that particular level.
Raging Cajuns will be mourning Tony all summer. No word as to what the next move will be for the program. Obviously, that's something they'll figure out over the next few days. But the one thing you think about when you think about Tony, great turnout from all his former players, from B.J. Ryan, a 3-time Major League All-Star, to current players that I saw. Tremendous folks came from all over the country, and Lafayette is packed with folks that flew in from all over the country to honor Tony Robichaux and his family. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll visit more with Dan Canterbury. We'll talk a little bit about Major League Baseball All-Star Game. There's a change to the LSU baseball coaching staff, and a whole lot more. Plus, later on, Matt Deggs will join us. We'll talk to Matt Deggs, the former Raging Cajun assistant coach, current Sam Houston head coach, and Cajun outfielder Brennan Breaux. That's all coming up on Sports Shorts presented by LaBerge.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call AccuTemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau St. Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to...
When you come to Relief Windows, your experience starts here.
Or here.
Then we come to your home.
We measure twice.
And then we bring custom windows to your home.
We remove your old windows.
Install your new windows.
Clean our mess.
And we make sure you're completely satisfied.
And all of this before you pay a dime. And at Relief Windows, our #1 product is customer satisfaction.
Relief Windows.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call Accutemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Shorts, presented by LeBear's Casino in Baton Rouge. Ronnie Rance alongside Dan Canaveri, a longtime LSU assistant coach in baseball, and been at the Southeastern, Miami, you name it, Southern. And we were talking a little bit about Tony Robichaux in the first segment. We'll talk plenty more about Coach Robe coming up after Dan with former Raging Cajun assistant Matt Deggs, who's a guy that a lot of folks will be throwing his name around to possibly be a replacement for Coach Robichaux. We'll also talk to former LSU outfielder and current center fielder for the Raging Cajuns, Brennan Breaux, on his outstanding bounce-back season of his career this past year and his experience over the last couple of seasons with Tony Robichaux. But now we'll turn our attention a little bit to a great story. You know, as we tape here on Monday, you'll have the Home Run Derby Monday night. You got the All-Star Game in Cleveland, and DJ LeMahieu and Alex Bregman starting. First time LSU's ever had two starters in the college in the Major League Baseball All-Star Game.
Heck of a thing, and you got to give a lot of credit to DJ LeMahieu because he's been carrying the Yankees. Now, who would ever say that?
Right.
Yeah, DJ LeMahieu carrying the Yankees. He's played 3 or 4 different positions. I mean, he's just the ultimate pro, Golden Glover, a great guy. And, of course, Bregman is Bregman. Let's see if he can win a car for his dad this year.
Right.
His mom got one last year.
That was the MVP last year. Bregman will participate in the All-Star, in the Home Run Derby. He won the MVP last year. He'll participate in the Home Run Derby this year. The winner of the Home Run Derby gets over $1 million. How about that? I think it's like $1.5 million or something like that.
Okay, then I'm going to say Bregman's going to win the Home Run Derby. right. He's a motivated kid.
Incredible.
He's one of those guys.
It's incredible. Hey, don't forget the TAF after you win that Home Run Derby. Greatest LSU baseball player, greatest former LSU baseball player in professional baseball history. Is it still Albert Bell, or has DJ LeMahieu gotten that baton yet from a position player standpoint?
Well, that's a tough one.
I think Bell was a 4-time All-Star, never won an MVP, never won a Silver Slugger, which DJ LeMahieu's done that. But probably for about a 5-6 year stretch, he was as good as anybody
player.
In baseball.
A little different styles. He was a dominant player, where DJ is just a consistent player.
Yeah,
can play a lot of positions, goes about it in a totally different way than Albert. He's very quiet, soft-spoken by nature. But I think the longevity, and every year he seems to get better.
Right.
I mean, that's really something special for him.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that we're having the conversation tells you all you need to know. I think when all's said and done, you know, let's just say DJ LeMahieu plays another 5 years, which is very possible. For sure, probably 3 or 4.
Because of his flexibility and his utility abilities.
Yeah, now he's playing some first. He can play second. Obviously, he can DH, depending on the league. Yeah. So, you know, if he plays another 4 years, I think he's going to win the award at this time for best Major League Baseball player. Now, Alex Bregman's still very in his infancy of his career, but chances are if he stays healthy, he'll have a little something to say about that.
Yeah. But I tell you what's interesting is, you know, people forget, and of course, one of the great moves of all time in 2009, Austin Nola stepped in at shortstop and moved DJ over to second, where he won the Golden Glove and the Silver Slugger with the Rockies, of course. Well, now Nola, who was the shortstop, is now moved into Seattle after a grinding minor league rise to get to the big leagues as a catcher. But now he's playing a little first base and can play a little infield and do a lot of things. So you're talking about two guys in the same infield that are great utility players. And I think Austin, if he keeps swinging the bat, has a chance to stay in the league for a few years and make a nice living.
And oh, by the way, the guy that got bumped out of the infield, Ryan Schimpf, made the big leagues. He moved him to left, and he ended up making the big leagues.
First and left.
Yeah.
So he made the big leagues. What a collection of talent.
Yeah, you're talking about 2009. You realize those three guys. Did Jaron Mitchell make it? I know he's a first-round pick. Did he ever get a cup of coffee?
I think he got a cup. I think he got a cup.
I know he's still
fighting through injuries.
Fighting through it to get there. But Jaron Mitchell was a first-round pick. You had Renato and Coleman at the top of your rotation that pitched in the big leagues.
Gibbs is your catcher.
Gibbs was your catcher. I'm thinking of other guys that were in the major leagues off that roster. I feel like I'm probably forgetting somebody. It was Verdugo on that staff of that year. I can't remember.
Was Goody on that staff?
No, he wasn't on that staff. But so that right there off the top is 5 guys for sure that made the major leagues off that team, and we're probably missing it 1 or 2. That gives you an idea. It's a pretty good group in 2009.
Pretty good job recruiting there. Pretty good group of players. But I thought that was interesting that Nola fights his way back, and what an infield. Nola and DJ LeMay, two big leaguers.
The story this summer for me was Austin Nola finally making the big leagues after 8 years in the minor leagues, and obviously joining his brother Aaron, who's just signed a $45 million contract this offseason, and he's the ace for the Phillies and will pitch for a long, long time.
A 3-hitter the other day in 6 2/3 innings against the Mets.
Had a bad April, but May and June have been really, really good. But I'm one that believes unless you have some kind of career to go to, right? Unless you've gone to college and you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, you're taking over dad's company, unless there's a clear path on what you're going to do in life, or you're had a situation where you're married with 2 kids at home, you play until they take that jersey off your back.
And they rip it off.
Well, they rip it off. But I kind of gave up on Austin, to be honest with you. About a year and a half ago, I was like, man, he's still going at it, huh? Because he made the change from infielder to catcher. The Marlins organization, which he was in for a very long time, never got promoted. He left there. And I kind of thought, maybe it's time, and he proved everybody wrong and stayed with it and got to the big leagues and is off to a really good start.
Shows about perseverance. And again, what happens there is you get beat down. That's a tough thing to do to make the major leagues. And Austin was like a 4A player, not a AAA. He was a 4A. He was right on the cusp of the big leagues, always close, couldn't get there. Study of perseverance, and like you said, he just wanted to make it. And that's all you can say. He was so close, wanted to make it, and made his break. And he's taking advantage of it right now. But I'm going to say for Tweety Nola and Stacy, not only to get 2 guys in the big leagues that are your sons,
right?
But on Father's Day.
On Father's Day.
I mean, that's the greatest Father's Day gift in the history of mankind. And I'm so happy because they're such a wonderful family.
Yeah, and really special, too, that Austin Nola hit his first home run in Houston, with a lot of family and friends at the ballpark for the beat, against the Astros in a 2-1 loss. He was had 2 or 3 hits that night. Just an amazing story that continues on. Some news out of LSU baseball. They make a change with their coaching staff. Out is Sean Ochenko as hitting coach, and in is former Notre Dame player and was a assistant coach at Tulane the past 3 years and did a really good job.
Right. I'm gonna say this. Working at LSU, it's not official as of this taping, because that's been released by D1 Baseball and Kendall Rogers, who seems to control all of college baseball and who gets hired and everything else. But there's some things got to happen on the personnel side. I'm not really privy to that, but I do know that you can't just move. You got to do some background checks. But if in fact that is the case, a good move by Coach Maneri. Eddie Smith, Tulane, former player, worked in Virginia.
Tell us what you know about him.
I just know he's a former player at Notre Dame when in 2006, and then he's been a head coach. He's been an assistant in a lot of places in a volunteer type role.
Mm-hmm.
This volunteer position is probably one of the best in the country because of the situation. I'll talk about that in a second. But being with Brian O'Connor at Virginia was probably a big thing because Brian O'Connor, of course, was with Paul at Notre Dame, head coach of Virginia, won a national championship and part of the Menarie tree. Mm-hmm. So I think he's a trusted entity for Paul, and I think Paul got a veteran guy that's been there before, and hopefully that can step up some things. Sean Ochinko is going to be a great coach, and he's going to land on his feet, I'm sure, and stay in baseball. He's a good baseball guy. But, when you're talking about the volunteer position, I see on social media and Twitter, oh, these guys, yeah, sure, there's money under the table and all that. There's no money under the table. If you have camps, you can pay them out of camp as long as they don't get money from the athletic department. Well, that's what everybody does around the country. It just happens that the coaches get paid well enough at LSU where that camp money becomes a viable option.
All the camp money.
Right, like when Skip was coaching and I was coaching, there wasn't a lot of money in your salary, so you had to augment everything with the camp. Well, now with the situation as is, I'm not saying they're rolling in the dough, but they can pay a guy decent salary, probably as much as a full-time assistant at another school.
Right.
So it's a commendable thing. Plus, it's a career move for this guy to step up to a top-notch, top 25, Power 5 conference, go into Omaha school, and maybe advance his career. So I think it's a good move for everybody.
And from a recent time at Tulane, Tulane offensively last year was pretty good. And they had Hosey, their third baseman, hit over 20 homers, was a first-round pick. But the one thing they did really well, they swung it. I did a few Tulane games last year. And so, obviously some recent history bodes well. It's a guy who's familiar with recruiting. He was a recruiting coordinator at Tulane, so he's got some experience. You mentioned head coach experience. He was a head coach at junior college in Washington for 4 years, won 3 conference championships. So a guy who's been around the block, has that tree history with Paul Mainieri as a player, and in recent times has been a hitting coach at a successful program at Tulane who really swung it the last couple of years. Also for him, if talking about Eddie Smith, the potential new hitting coach when all gets approved over at LSU, not a bad career move because Travis Jewett over there at Tulane just finished year 3 with the Green Wave. They haven't made a regional the last 3 years. They made it for 2 straight under David Pierce, who's now the Texas coach prior to Jewett's arrival. So, there's probably a little heat over there in New Orleans. You don't make a regional year 4, could be a coaching change. So it's a good move for Smith at this timing of his career to, jump, go to LSU, bigger program. And at the same time, Paul Mainieri's not going anywhere.
Right, and the dynamics are a little different. Remember, this legislation to try to get the third assistant coach
that's gonna happen,
as a full-time guy, it's going to happen. But they thought it might happen this year, so it changed the way Paul, if he was decided to make a move with a hitting coach or whatever, he was going to have to do something a little different. I think Eddie Smith made a good choice. One thing you mentioned, though, he's a recruiting coordinator for Tulane. Okay, he's done some recruiting. As the volunteer, you're not allowed to go off campus and recruit. Now, you can entertain recruits
and stuff like that.
No, you can entertain recruits.
Yeah.
Ochinko and other people, like when Mainieri coached the USA team, they could get a waiver because he couldn't recruit for that time period for Ochinko to go on the road. Alan Dunn had knee replaced and couldn't go on the road. I mean, various things like that. But all in all, he's there to coach the hitters, and he's going to help coach the team. That's his number one priority. Nolan Cain does a bulk of the recruiting. Alan goes out as well with Nolan. I think that's been solidified. But I think it's really a big move to bring in a guy that's just going to be in there and grinding it out in the batting cages, working with the hitters day in, day out, and pushing the talent they have on campus.
Were you surprised by the move?
No, I wasn't surprised. I feel bad for Sean. I like Sean Ochinko, of course, an alum and everything else. Great player, and worked hard as an assistant coach. But being around college athletics for 35-plus years, if you have a couple of years where the standard isn't what's expected by the fans and with a new AD, I think some changes in what was going on had to be made. I think that was an obvious one to make because, Sean got a good job out of college, out of pro ball, finished his degree. I think he's going to have a great career, but I think it's, he'll end up at maybe a little lesser Division I school as a hitting coach and work his way back up to the position, be a full-time coach or get into pro baseball because he's got that background either as a scout or a coach. So I think he's going to be fine, but I think it's something that wasn't really surprising, but I always hate to see that for any coach.
Anytime you're preseason number 1, number 2 in the country and expectations aren't met, you start to reevaluate things. As a coach, and that's what good coaches do, right? I mean, you self-evaluate your program. You see where you may want to improve, and it's not a slight on anybody. But there's as a head coach, Paul Mainieri's got to do what's best for the program. If he thinks this is what's best, then he's got to be able to put his head on his pillow at night.
People used to say, when I was coaching at LSU, of course, they say, "Oh man, you got a great job." Okay, like that's when we were at the ballpark. And that's for the people that showed up, an hour before the game, and they see you in uniform, you're down the bullpen, you warm the guys up. They weren't there at 8 o'clock in the morning, when you were doing it or making the recruiting calls. And the pressure, to perform at LSU, meaning the standard's so high that you wake up and I would have guys that worked at camp, high school coaches say, "Hey, I'd like to get into college baseball." I said, "No, you don't." Because you don't want to wake up every morning saying, "Did I make enough phone calls?" Because we're battling USC and Arizona State, and it's June 12th.
Mm-hmm.
Like every day you're competing with the rest of the world. That's a tough thing to do, and the coaches in college deserve a lot of credit at those high-level programs that stay there and stay at that high level because that's what you're doing. You're competing every day for your job and to beat other teams. I mean, it's a tough thing.
You mentioned that the third assistant coach probably will happen at some point. It's just a matter of when, is it next year? Is it the following year? When's it going to happen? And I think obviously with the attention it got at the College World Series this year, with Mississippi State's leading hitter having his last postseason speech, that was a big deal. My last question to you would be, will there be an increase in scholarships?
I think the coach is coming before the scholarships because when you deal with scholarships, you're dealing with gender equity. You're dealing with a whole different dynamic. I think the whole system has to change. But when you're dealing with adding a third coach, you can add a coach in softball. It meets the gender equity. You pay them both about the same, but you add that position or have the option to add that position. That balances gender equity more. People don't understand the dynamics of college athletics. As long as you have football, you're going to have 11.7 in baseball because there's no other way to balance it out because football eats up a large portion of your male scholarships. So that's why at LSU there's many more women's sports than there are men's sports at the Division I level because you have to make up for that scholarship. And I think it's a good thing. Don't think it's a bad thing.
It's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is.
Right.
And that's why that's more difficult than anything.
He's Dan Canaveri, longtime assistant coach. 6 times he went to the College World Series as an assistant. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you,
Appreciate it. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll talk a little bit more about Tony Roby's show. Sports Shorts, presented by LeBears.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call Accutemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau St. Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to...
When you come to Relief Windows, your experience starts here.
Or here.
Then we come to your home.
We measure twice.
And then we bring custom windows to your home.
We remove your old windows.
Install your new windows.
Clean our mess.
And we make sure you're completely satisfied.
And all of this before you pay a dime. And at Relief Windows, our #1 product is customer satisfaction.
Relief Windows.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call Accutemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.
And welcome back, everyone, to Sports Shorts presented by LaBerge Casino in Baton Rouge. I want to thank Dan Canaveri, who joined us last segment of Sports Shorts. Right now, we go to the Woodhaven Furniture Company phone line, and joining us is former Ragin' Cajun assistant coach from 2012-2014 and current Sam Houston State Bearcat head coach. Matt Deggs joins us. Coach, how are you, sir?
Hey, Ronnie. How you doing, man? I'm probably about like everybody else, just kind of still in shock and a little bit numb.
I appreciate you joining us here. We're as we are talking, of course, it's prior to the funeral for Hall of Fame coach Tony Robichaux. And Matt, you've been very open and honest over the years about how your relationship with Coach Robe and how he kind of gave you a second chance in coaching and put you back on your path to success, leading the Bearcats to a super regional a couple years ago. And just talk about your first interactions with Coach Robe and how that relationship developed.
Well, you know, I'd lost everything, Ronnie, and lost my family for a period of time, my job, and really and truly was damaged goods, and nobody would touch me, even though I'd been in the game for a long time, associate head coach at A&M, et cetera, et cetera. And there was one guy that believed in second chances, and he, you know, it was Coach Robichaux, and he told me one of the first times we ever talked, I'll never forget it. He said, "I don't care what you've done. What I want to know is what you're going to do with this second chance." And that's always stuck with me. And, you know, consequently, look, you know, 7-8 years down the road, and the man saved my life and saved my family. And for that, I'll always be in his debt.
You only spent 2.5 seasons with Coach Robe. And obviously they were very successful seasons. One of them, you got all the way up to ranked number 1 in the country, hosted a super regional. But what do you remember most about your time with him, which I know you picked up and learned a lot of things, but is there something that stands out the most that you took away from your time with him?
Man, how much time we got, Ronnie?
Much as you need.
I mean, it started off as a boss and, you know, a head coach and an assistant coach, and it kind of transformed into a mentor. And then you look up and he's one of my best friends, and he's more than a brother. And I think I said this last night, you know, everybody's going to pass away. This life is very temporary, but when you look at Coach Robe, he's just not one of those guys that's supposed to pass away. And, you know, we might not have kept in touch all the time after I moved or this or that. We didn't have to. We just had a relationship that you could speak without speaking. And I think the biggest thing is just I always knew that he was there. I knew he was at UL, and that made me good. And just to think that he's not there anymore, man, it's a lonely feeling. And I think what I miss more than anything, and probably like most people, is just our talks and our laughs. And you know, what a lot of people don't know is he was a remarkably funny man. I mean, he was amazingly funny and could cut up with the best of them. And yeah, he could have serious talks, but golly, we had a good time, man.
Yeah, I tell you, you know, that's the thing that stands out the most to me. You know, I never did play for Coach Robe. I always played against Coach Robe at McNeese when he was there, and then of course have, you know, called a lot of his games for many many years. So I didn't ever really see the serious side, except, you know, when I was calling a game and I'm seeing him get on his umpires or something. But I saw that intensity obviously in the dugout many times. But we always had great laughs. You know, it was always telling stories. Of course, he loved the impersonations I used to do of Coach Bertman and everything, and they had a lot of interactions over the years. But that he had a great personality and a great sense of humor, as all good coaches do. You were there during a time where he coached Austin, and he was able to make coaching his sons work, which is and make it work for the team, you know, to where the team wasn't bitter or anything, you know, and that's a unique, that's hard to do.
It really is. I tell you what helps a lot, Ronnie, is that they were both really, really good.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
That'll help a ton. Justin was a really good two-way player, and Austin, you know, was one of the better college arms in the country his junior year, and just a super athletic kid. And really what sticks out to me the most is how about those two kids is how well he had groomed them and trained them from a professional aspect, from a baseball acumen, IQ aspect, before they had ever gotten there. You know, their baseball age and maturity was way beyond their years, and it was fun to watch those relationships interact. And to Coach's credit, you know, he treated them just like anybody else, and you know, there were ups and downs, but he was always fair and treated them just like everybody else. And you would expect nothing less out of him.
You were a part of the staff, played a big role, and I'll tell you, you know, it's hard. Tony Robichaux in 2014 had been at UL for nearly 20 years and was the face of the program, but he gave you a lot of credit publicly, privately, wasn't afraid to even say, you know, you taught him some new things and brought some new energy to that program. You guys were number one in the country for a good part of that year, hosted a super regional. You've been on a lot of staffs, and you've been on a lot of great teams. When you think back to that 2014 team, which arguably was the, you know, second best team Raging Cajuns have ever had, what do you remember?
I'll tell you what, I think the greatest compliment I can give that team, and every team since, and probably for the rest of my career, will always be measured to that team. And you got to remember, in 2012, pretty much that same team was 23-30, and they go from 23-30 to 58-10, and it was just a collection of misfits, man. And this is going to sound odd, but there was a lot of brokenness on that team, and I was probably one of the lead ones. And we all just kind of bonded and came together, and you know, through our different sets of adversity or life stories, and that was pretty much the personnel on that team. That was pretty much all we had, was that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no safety net, there was no backup plan, there was no anything else. That was it, and we played every night like that.
Talking with Matt Deggs, current Sam Houston State head coach and former Raging Cajun assistant. Last thing before we let you go, Matt, when it's all said and done and you look back on your time in Lafayette and your time with Coach Robe, what will stand out the most?
Just family. And, you know, we're from Texas, and all of our family and all of our ties are there, but this is a community, and this is a city and a region and a town that starting with Coach Robe and Colleen and Ashley and Austin and Judd, and that just embraced us and made us feel, for the first time in a long time, like we were accepted and a part of something, and that it was okay. And this culture is second to none in aspects of family and those foundations, and you know, I think more than anything, that's just the ties that bind, man. And we'll always hold a special spot in our heart for this place and for the Robichaux family.
Matt, good seeing you, and last night at the Memorial, and thanks so much for taking time to join us today.
Appreciate all you do, Ronnie. Thank you.
All right, Matt Deggs right there, head baseball coach at Sam Houston State. You know, at the time was not appropriate as we tape here prior to the funeral of Tony Robichaux to talk to Matt Deggs about what's maybe next for him in his career. But no question, he will be the lead name to replace Tony Robichaux as head coach of the Ragin' Cajuns. Those conversations won't begin until probably a couple days from now. But there's no question he will get the first phone call, and then it'll go from there. The Ragin' Cajun fans were Matt Deggs fans. Tony Robichaux was very outspoken in public about how Matt Deggs brought so much to that program. He mentioned he took over as the hitting coach in 2012. Halfway through that season, they had a losing year, and then in 13 and 14, they were outstanding and got all the way to number one in the country before he ended up leaving to go be the head coach at Sam Houston. And, oh, by the way, all they've done is win conference championships in the Sun Belt. They finished they made it through a super regional a couple years ago, which is tough to do for a Southland Conference school, which is generally a one-bid league for that conference. So because of that, he will be the name that probably most Ragin' Cajun fans will wonder if he will return back to Lafayette. We will see. We'll take a break. When we come back on Sports Shorts, we'll talk to current Ragin' Cajun outfielder Brennan Breaux, former St. Thomas More State champion baseball player and former LSU Tiger. He spent the last 2 years in Lafayette with Coach Robe. We'll talk to him next.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call Accutemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau Saint Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. Best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to...
When you come to Relief Windows, your experience starts here.
Or here.
Then we come to your home.
We measure twice.
And then we bring custom windows to your home.
We remove your old windows.
Install your new windows.
Clean our mess.
And we make sure you're completely satisfied.
And all of this before you pay a dime. And at Relief Windows, our #1 product is customer satisfaction.
Relief Windows.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call Accutemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Shorts presented by LeBear's Casino in Baton Rouge. They had all kind of great goings on at LeBear's last week. They gave away a 2019 Corvette Coupe, as well as a big party for the 4th of July, fireworks on the river, all sorts of great activities. If you want to see what's going on at LeBear's, download the LeBear's Baton Rouge app on your phone, and you can check out all the great concerts that are coming up, including, just found out, Brian McKnight in November. I will be there for that. They got Better Than Ezra this fall. A lot of good country acts coming as well. Go to the LeBear's Baton Rouge app, download it on your phone today. I want to thank Dan Canaveri and Matt Deggs, who joined us all earlier on Sports Shorts. Now we go over to Lafayette, and joining us is current center fielder for the Raging Cajuns. He'll be entering his last season next year in Lafayette. Played the last 2 years for Coach Robe, and he was a former state champion multiple times over at St. Thomas More. Played for Paul Maneri in the LSU Tigers, and then went home to play for Coach Robe. Joining us is Brendan Bro. Brendan, how are you today, man?
Hey, Ronnie, how's it going? Thanks for having me, man.
I appreciate you for coming on. Want to ask you about your about the last 2 seasons that you played for Coach Robe over in Lafayette. I know you know him. You grew up in Lafayette. You played at St. Thomas More. You had a lot of interactions with him all your life. But what was it like the last 2 years for you, getting to know him in a different level?
Yeah, it's like you said. It's that I grew up going to games there. My dad's had season tickets since before I was born, and it was kind of surreal for me to start playing with him because the sights, the sounds, the smells, everything that you associate baseball with as a little kid. Those were my first memories going to the tee, and watching UL strap it on and play. And it was a dream come true for me, really and truly, to be able to play for Coach Robe. It was really cool to see him kind of on the outside of it as a kid, and then being able to play for him ultimately was just so much different. It was so fulfilling for me. Like I said, growing up there watching it and having the opportunity to play in a Raging Cajuns uniform was a dream come true.
I know, you took a fortuitous route to become the starting center fielder for the Raging Cajuns out of high school, ended up in Baton Rouge, and were a part of a couple very successful LSU teams. And, most notably, one of your bigger games at LSU was the Rally Possum game. I know folks always remember that, where you came off the bench and had a number of hits and helped LSU win the dramatic comeback against Arkansas. Things didn't necessarily work out the way you had wanted them to in Baton Rouge, and Coach Robe kind of gave you a chance over in Lafayette. I know you had to sit out your entire 2018 season while you transferred, and that was very difficult. Talk about how he helped you through that time to get your head right back for college baseball.
Yeah, so from the moment I stepped into the office, in Coach Robe's office, he just told me it's all part of a process. It's kind of one of those things. It's like it was one of his famous Robeisms. Don't let people's perception of you become your reality. And it really stuck to me, and that really stuck with me in saying, what's in the past is in the past, and you have a chance now to basically make a name for yourself, and you're going to get out, of this game whatever you wish to put into it. And he believed in me from day one and welcomed me with open arms and gave me ultimately the opportunity, to play. And it was fantastic. But he gave me the challenge, day one, basically saying it was all a process. And like I said, he told me, he said, what you did in the past is the past. And he said, all you can control now is what's in front of you. So he said, what you did leading up to this point is a process. And he said, what you do moving forward is also a process. So like I said, he challenged me from day one. And it was great. I loved every second that I played, and it was tough sitting out that year. And he kept telling me in my ear. He said, "It's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. Stick to your process. Stick to what you're doing. Because you're doing the right things here." He said, "You just got to stick through it."
Well, it definitely paid off for you. You started just about every game this past year for the Raging Cajuns in center field. Have one more season to go. We're visiting with Brennan Breaux, former STM Cougar and LSU Tiger, current Raging Cajun outfielder. What has the last 5 days been like for you and your teammates? I mean, to lose your coach just kind of suddenly the way it happened with Coach Robe passing last Wednesday. Take me through the past 5 years. Have you guys had a team meeting? What as group text? I mean, how have you guys communicated about what's been going on?
We've all been kind of in contact with each other in one way or another, whether it be group text, phone calls, meeting, having lunch, or doing whatever. I mean, we've just been trying to wrap our heads around it. It just doesn't seem real yet, and that's kind of what everybody's been saying. It's like he was such a larger-than-life figure for so many people, and he had such a big impact on so many people that when you get the news like that he's in the hospital, you have no doubt in your mind that there's no way he's not going to make it out. And then ultimately you get the news that you don't want to hear, and it's just news, until that first meeting or that first practice that we have where he's supposed to be there and he's not. And that's when I think it's going to hit home for everybody really and truly. Because like I said, he was such a larger than life figure. He had such a bigger impact on so many people past the game of baseball. What he did for people on a personal level, it's something that it's going to be hard to deal with. But the guys are good. Everybody's spirits are good. It's just a big blow, and it's one of those things where he drove us to be so much closer as people, as a team, and it hurts that much just because we are so close, and that he was the glue that kind of held us all together. But at the same time, his life might have ended, but his legacy begins. And so it's kind of one of those things where we're going to have to, carry on what he's laid the foundation for here for 25 years. But the team is good. Like I said, it's going to make us that much closer moving forward.
It's got to be special for you because, like you said, you grew up in the Lafayette area. You know this program and this tradition and history inside and out. Had to be neat for you yesterday to see everybody at the, all the former players.
Definitely. So, like I said, growing up, and baseball at the Teague was my first taste of baseball, at a high level. And so I was a bat boy actually when I was in fourth and fifth grade. So seeing all these guys, come back for the services, it's like it was a blast from the past.
Brennan Breaux. Brennan, we're running behind on time. We appreciate you so much for joining us. I know it's super tough what you and all your teammates are going through. Thanks so much for taking time to join us.
Well, thank you for having me, Ronnie. I really appreciate it.
All right, Brennan Breaux, Raging Cajun outfielder, and talking about Tony Robichaux. Special thanks to Matt Deggs, Dan Canaveri, and many others who joined us here on Sports Shorts TV on this special edition honoring the life of Tony Robichaux. Have a great week, everyone.
Heater outages hurt everyone. Don't be a victim. Call AccuTemp and schedule your maintenance check today.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau St. Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Introducing the Mercedes-Benz family of vans, including the full-size Sprinter and the mid-size Metris. If these are your wingtips, if this is your gourmet latte, then these are your vans. Vans for professionals. Strictly professionals. best commercial van residual value according to ALG, and starting at just $25,995. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to...
When you come to Relief Windows, your experience starts here.
Or here.
Then we come to your home.
We measure twice.
And then we bring custom windows to your home.
We remove your old windows.
Install your new windows.
Clean our mess.
And we make sure you're completely satisfied.
And all of this before you pay a dime. And at Relief Windows, our #1 product is customer satisfaction.